I've been making an effort to doom scroll on my phone a lot less than I do, and I thought the best replacement for one screen is a smaller, slightly older screen.
Now I know that sounds pretty stupid at first, but the upside of replacing social media scrolling with a handheld console is that it feels so much more productive. Well, at least as productive as playing video games can get. But the other, more important part for me is that it's given me the opportunity to explore a console that I had as a kid, but never really got to dive that deep into. That console is Sony's PlayStation Portable, their very first and best attempt at taking the PlayStation experience on the go. My goal when revisiting the PSP was to go and explore the library beyond what I had already experienced as a kid. Because for me, the PSP was my Grand Theft Auto machine, and I sunk a ton of time into both Liberty and Vice City stories. This is because it's a lot harder for your parents to see that you're playing a rated M game on a 4-inch screen than it is on their giant tube TV. Now I did dabble a bit in games like Daxter and Need for Speed Underground Rivals, but they really never grabbed my attention away from GTA or Pokemon on my DS. However, when I was making my Midnight Club 3 video last year back in June, I discovered that there was not only a handheld version of the game for the PSP, but it was near identical to what you experienced on the PS2. I was blown away, and also a little bit annoyed that the universe hid this from me as a kid in 2005, because I would have been glued to my PSP. From there, this is where the trouble began, and where I decided to go even further in seeing what I missed, which turned out to be quite a bit.
Now I'll talk about what I've done with my PSPs in just a moment, but before we get started, we have to lay some ground rules.
Number 1, keep the experience as authentic as possible, which for me meant playing exclusively on real PSP hardware with very minimal modifications to it. I didn't want to change the theme to something crazy on it, nor did I really want to start soldering things like a USB-C port onto it. Number 2, no emulators, outside of what the PSP could do originally. A jailbroken PSP is an incredibly capable console, but what I find is that when I have one device that could do everything, I tend on doing nothing on it at all. So for my PSP, the only emulation I allowed myself to participate in was a few PS1 games which the console actually natively supports. Number 3, the most important, have fun. Now this sounds kinda stupid, but coming from the land of endless scrolling and time wasting, having this as a goal for downtime made me explore so many games, and I was able to fill in the 15-minute breaks at work or long trips in the car with something much more enjoyable than Instagram. I also found that with this goal, I was able to share my enjoyment with the others around me, and even got a few people to pick up a PSP of their own to revisit it as well. Now that the rules are out of the way, let's talk about the hardware itself. Thanks to the magic of modern jailbreaking techniques and advancements in hardware since 2005, the PSP evolves into the perfect partner to accompany you in your day-to-day life. Besides a brand new battery, a microSD to memory stick duo adapter is easily the best upgrade you can give this thing since it solves 2 problems in one. The expected small proprietary Sony storage media issue, as well as the short battery life caused by the PSP constantly spinning up the UMD drive. Once we have this installed, the jailbreak itself has become the easiest thing in the world to do. Now I won't share on how to do that here, but there are a ton of great creators on YouTube that have really straightforward guides to get your own console opened up. And after a few minutes, you're now ready to take your PSP to the next level with the ability to play all of your games digitally off the SD card and even explore emulators like GBA and surprisingly the N64 as well. But like I said, I want to keep my experience simple. I did start off with my original PSP 2000 model that was living in a drawer at my parents' house for years. But in the winter, a brand new LCD panel was introduced for the 3000 model and, well, curiosity got the best of me. I ended up scouring eBay for a great deal on a well-loved 3000 that had seen better days, and while it didn't have a screen, it did look to power on. I ordered some component cables to test out on my TV to confirm that the unit was fully functional, and bam! I now have an LCD PSP 3000. Let me know if you want to see the full video on the unboxing and installation process, because I actually recorded the whole thing. To me and so many others, this was the first handheld console that truly felt like you had a console on the go. The library on here is absolutely astounding, and it's full of what I call miniature versions of PS2 games that are either ports of actual PS2 games like Midnight Club 3 or Outrun 2006, or games made specifically for the PSP that feel like they could have been console games, like God of War or Daxter. You were actually also able to buy PS1 games on the PlayStation storefront back when it was officially supported, which opened up the library to full-on home console games on the go. For my PSP, I only ended up adding 3 games so far, with them being Need for Speed High Stakes alongside the first 2 Gran Turismo games. I'm not too much of a PS1 guy, so please let me know what other games you think I should check out from that console. That on-the-go part I mentioned can't be understated. I took this thing everywhere with me, from work to trips down the shore, and even for a flight to Florida. The portability of the PSP cannot be overlooked. Especially with my upgraded battery and expanded memory stick, it was able to last long enough on my flight to keep me entertained and had enough games on board for some smaller experiences when I had some downtime. To me, the hardware here is the perfect combination of screen size and handheld comfort, with the only drawback being the thumbstick having a limited range in some games. But the advantage you get over a console like the Vita is that the flatness of the thumbstick means it's incredibly pocketable, and I don't really have to worry about it being damaged if it's not in the case. The only other major drawback is one you'll find on other old handhelds, a proprietary charger. In the PSP's case, it's one of Sony's older barrel-style plugs, and given the age, it's something you won't find lying around your house if you forget the charger at home. But there's also quite a few solutions out there to convert the console to modern USB-C charging, with even a full-on port retrofit to replace the original one. My favorite though has been this simple adapter that converts the barrel plug to USB-C, and it's small enough to keep in my travel bag at all times.
Now, while hardware is really cool, what makes it great are the games we get to experience on it. For my playthrough, I decided to go back and play some games I started as a kid but never finished, as well as some totally new to me experiences.
One of those games I was very eager to go back to is Daxter. As a huge Jak and Daxter fan as a kid, I remember being incredibly excited to download and play the demo of Daxter from the PSN store. I've gotten over 60% through the game, and it's been such a blast to go through Haven City as the pint-sized Daxter. Ready at Dawn nailed the scale of the city around you as you play as Daxter in the time between the end of the Precursor Legacy and Jak 2. As he desperately tries to locate Jak after being taken by the Crimson Guard, Daxter finds himself as the city's new exterminator, who begins to uncover the origins of the Metalhead insurrection. I also find that the gameplay itself is a really great bridge between the two games, as it rehashes the use of various eco-colors, similar to Jak 2's ammo types with Daxter's bug sprayer. But it has a lot of fun discoverables and platforming sections just like the first game. When I first started TDU, I completely forgot that I'd played this as a kid on my PSP, until I opened the game and I was immediately struck with equal parts nostalgia and awe. It's genuinely impressive how the developer Melbourne House was able to fit the entire PS2 version of this massive open world racing game onto a console that fits in your pocket, in 2005. While the level of detail is still less than the PS2, which is itself a downgrade over the 360, the gameplay and content itself is near identical to that console version. Although you can't select interior colors for cars, you still do get to choose from a wide range of OEM colors and wheels for most cars. I've spent a majority of my time unlocking all the dealerships around the island and clearing through all the car clubs to unlock a ton of free upgrades and some really great prize cars. I've also started to like the strategy of car buying in this game. Like when it came time for me to buy a Ford to take on both the Ford and the American Car Club, the GT was by far the best option, as it also allowed me to enter the Stripes Club if I bought mine with, well, stripes. Little things, random things like that, are always why I adore the first 2 Test Drive Unlimited games, and why I'm so happy to take this experience on the go.
A lot of the titles I explored on the PSP were racing games, because it's kind of my thing. Anyway, I played quite a few, so I'll go through some of my favorites quickly.
First up is Midnight Club 3 and Juice 2. I really wanted to talk about these games together because they are the perfect example of how close the PSP could get to the PS2's level of games. Starting with Midnight Club 3, I actually didn't play too much of this considering I just wrapped up playing through the full console game for the episode of RETROspective, but I was still amazed by it. Everything is as you expect it to be if you are a longtime Midnight Club 3 player, even down to the cutscenes. The only downside to this over playing it at home is the hit to the frame rate the game can take when there's a lot of traffic or other racers. Despite this though, it is literally Midnight Club 3 that you can take with you anywhere. And to me, that's just worth it in the end. Juice 2, a great candidate for a future retrospective, is a similar story, albeit with a few more restrictions compared to its console counterpart. Compared to the console version, it lacks a few cars from its roster, has less options for visual customization, and doesn't include the detailed damage model for the cars. Despite this though, the game is still incredibly feature complete, and most importantly, still very fun. My favorite races, despite being a bit on the easy side, are all the drift events that the game has, and once you get the hang of the mechanics, it is incredibly satisfying to chain drifts and rack up huge points. For me, both of these games are the best examples of what the PSP was capable of compared to its full-fat console cousin. Fresh off my Tokyo Extreme Racer kick, Street Supremacy was the perfect partner to scratch the Wangan itch on the go. Don't be fooled by the different name. This is still a Genki developed game, and it is still an entry in the TXR series. Unlike the previous two games, this one feels more like a handheld take on a console franchise than a miniature port of the console game. Street Supremacy has the same head-to-head battle formula as the mainline games, but now you run your own crew on a quest to take over territory and dominate the land. Instead of roaming the entire Wangan highway system like you do on console, you actually scout out your rivals through highway cameras and initiate the race from there. It's a pretty clever way to skirt the limitations of the PSP not being able to render the full highway system on top of traffic and rivals. Compared to the console games, this is one of the easier games in the series, especially once you recruit some wanderers to your team, which can make showdowns a breeze. I really enjoyed playing through the story as well as its new game plus, so let me know if you'd like to see a retrospective on it in the future. Let's end on some non-racing games that I got into during my PSP playthroughs, starting off with Ratchet and Clank Size Matters. This is yet another game from Ready at Dawn that feels like a PS2 game crammed onto a UMD. Size Matters is packed to the brim with signature wacky weapons and the colorful characters the series is known for. It also offers a wide range of gameplay styles, which I do and don't like. I found the platforming to be surprisingly snappy despite the limitations that the thumbstick provides, and I actually did enjoy the Clank specific missions when you control minions and even play as Giant Clank. As a total side note, during the Giant Clank mission, I said to myself, wow, Clank sounds a lot like Megatron from Transformers Armada. As it turns out, Clank's voice actor David Kay also voiced Megatron. And if I had a nickel for every time that I discovered a voice actor in a game I'm playing were also actors in Transformer Armada, I'd have 3 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's very weird that it happened 3 times so far. Anyway, back to the game, and I'll finish up with the part I didn't like too much, which were a lot of the skating missions. My god, those controls were the least optimized for the PSP that I'd encountered, and they were really frustrating when they came up. Despite this though, Size Matters is still a fun playthrough when you're on the go. To wrap up the games, we'll finish with the Yu-Gi-Oh! Tag Force series, a great simulator for the TCG if you're someone who enjoys the pacing of the older playstyles. I stuck with Tag Force 1 to start as I wanted to explore the GX era of gameplay, and this game does a really great job of being a duel simulator and pack opener too. Unlike the modern Master Duel, which has you earn gems or spend real money to build decks, Tag Force actually has you duel to earn a decent amount of credits for deck building. The only downside with this model though is that the CPUs can have access to cards that you can only earn either late or post-game duels, which means you're gonna have to be losing quite a bit on your way to the top of Duel Academy. I had to spend a lot of time grinding against one specific NPC who was insanely easy to steamroll to farm credits off of. From there, I started to assemble one of the more meta decks in the game, which is a water-based deck since you already have most of the cards you need early on. If you're a fan of the way the older TCG was played, these games are definitely worth it, just for the trip down memory lane alone.
In a world of portable PCs and new emulation hardware that releases seemingly every other day, the PSP is still a really viable option for handheld gaming on the go.
Today, this over 20-year-old console benefits from the technological advancements in battery and solid-state storage to help solve a lot of its original problems from its initial release. It's pretty ironic when you consider how myself and many others who make videos on the PSP are usually the ones that love to collect games and physical media. Yet with the SD to memory stick adapter, it's digital media that brings the largest improvement to the console and compels me to actually not collect UMDs. Well, that and the lack of shelf space, but that's besides the point. Even though PSP prices have started to rise over the last few years, compared to some of the latest devices like the AYN Thor or the Abernic RGDS, it's still a fraction of the price. That being said, those consoles can go much higher than the limits of PSP, PS1, and GBA, but if it's all you're looking for, or if you'd rather save yourself a few $100s, the PSP might be perfect for you. And that leads me to the question you've probably all been asking yourselves. Should I stop what I'm doing and go get one? Well, that answer's a little complex, and to me it all depends on if you fall into one of these 3 camps. Person number 1. You're someone that had a PSP growing up, and maybe you found your original one hiding in a drawer like me. Then I'd definitely say that it's worth the $40 to $60 you would spend to get the handful of items you need to get your console up and running again. Person number 2. You like to tinker with old tech and you happen to score a great deal on one that needs a little bit of TLC. or maybe it has a dead UMD drive, then this would also be the perfect portable partner for classic emulation on the go. And finally, person number 3. You're someone who's never had a PSP before, and you want to branch out beyond just emulators on your computer or phone to experience the console physically. Well, for anywhere between $75 and $100, you can get into an extensive library with unique experiences made just for that console, and some very capable ports from its bigger home console brother at the time. As for me, I check all 3 of these boxes, and I really enjoyed my time with the PSP tremendously. From revisiting titles of old to exploring the unknown, I'm very happy to say that this console has become a permanent fixture in my everyday carry. So what are your thoughts on the PSP? Did you have one as a kid too, or is this a handheld you've been meaning to explore? Let me know your thoughts down below and give me some game recommendations to play. I'm always down to explore some new games. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.